Please welcome Henry Daubrez, resident filmmaker and creative director at Google Labs.
Hello, hello. All right, so this is called Hot or Slop. I think that's very much what we are discussing these days a lot. Oh, this is bright. So a few things first. So that is me when I was fairly young. The thing which is funny is that because of the easy idea of my name, people think that I'm Spanish and that you have to pronounce it differently. Turns out, not at all. So I'm actually from Belgium. That's the French accent you can hear. So not to mistake me for being a French person. That's important. It's like saying someone from the US that they're Canadian, right? Or the other way around. So I come from this place called Liège. You know those waffles. My mom was from Spain, and I currently live in a place which is Utah. Hopefully there's not many people from Utah in here, because it's really kind of a weird place to live in. Good and bad reasons. I grew up in a different century, as you can see. We never have much. My parents came from Spain. My mom came from Spain because her dad was working in mines. Mines were a big industry where I came from. That's literally an engraving from the place where I grew up. But the thing is, my parents always made sure that we had access to culture somehow, which, growing up between the 80s and 90s is somehow different for everyone. So maybe to explain where I came from and how I ended up in here, but also I think a lot of us can relate to the fact that, when you get into, from being a kid and what you imagine you would be doing and where you are today, a lot of things happened, and sometimes you never end where you wanted to. Because that's the way life is. So, as mentioned, my parents always made sure that we could, paint and draw and express any creativity, which is great. Somewhere along the way, that's going to be important. I found this book, literally this cover of The Hobbit, French version, or French-speaking version. I'll come back on it afterwards. Remember seeing that cartoon a lot when I was a kid, but it wasn't that bad. But once again, we didn't have much. We were 4 brothers. I'm the youngest. So the one thing my parents wanted, because my dad had to work when he was 16 or 17, and my parents had kids really early. That was different times. They wanted us to go to school, obviously, and to get education as good as possible. They kind of had the feeling that more degrees means a better life. The thing is, I can't really complain about that. School was kind of easy, and that's great, but it was also kind of boring. In the way it works in Belgium, there's no electives, there's no practical stuff. You go, you learn the same. You do your math, you do your whatever language, French, whatever you have, science, and then you have to decide what you want to do, which is pretty difficult. What's funny also is that along the way, forget which year, around end of 80s, my dad won something like the equivalent of 400 euros to the lottery. You cannot do much with that. Once again, different times, but for weird reasons, especially coming from Belgium, he bought this computer, a Commodore 64. And one of my brothers was like, you know what, I learned how to code. Turns out he became a developer, which is not a big surprise. And it kind of changed the path, which how those small things can influence your life. And so I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was hanging out with my brother. He was a lot on his computer. And I was still bored. I went to study computer science, thinking that was the solution. And it was just a lot more math. It was a lot more techie, and I wasn't really interested in that. I wanted to do more creative work. And to come back to this, I think that was kind of a turning point for me, which is funny how someone mentioned serendipity earlier. That's very much how I see things sometimes. If you have time to read the note. But so, discovering this book, I went on to reading The Lord of the Rings, like a lot of people did, which in turn, when the movie started to come out, was amazing. I can finally see what was in my head was kind of translated in a way which was, I think, pretty efficient. But also, it was a great opportunity to discover something else, which is this company, so Weta. If you heard of it, of course, everything which was from the workshop, which is that side, which is all the miniatures or bigatures and all the VFX on the movies. could have been the end, I could have moved into that industry, and then, perfect, that's what I wanted to do. I moved from computer science to learning CGI, and that was a process. And the thing is, it's interesting how complicated life can be. As I was studying all of that and getting into CGI and learning digital painting on my own, which is also really funny because I had the same conversations learning digital painting I'm having now around AI. Like I had traditional painters coming in saying, that's not painting, you're not using any paint, you don't have a brush, you don't have the smell. We're very much in the same space today. I think we just like to complain as well. But the thing is, there was absolutely no market. There was no real opportunity to work on that side. I could have worked for an architecture firm and whatever, like work on AutoCAD and start doing some 3D, and that was pretty boring, I would say, for me, at least what I wanted to do. And that's the point, right? Like I think a lot of us here, I did chat a lot with a lot of people the last 2 days. When you ask, a lot of us did something totally different. Either we were in the same, similar industry, like creative, but also there's a lot of people, I was doing accounting, and then I was doing this before. And I think we can agree that between, you being a kid and wanting to do something and then getting where you want to get, sometimes you just need to get a job, or like there's a business in the family and you're going to take over the business because that's the way it is, or you need to pay your bills, and you studied X, but then you need to do Y. I think this is where AI is kind of answering a need. Like I think a lot of us want to tell stories, and we always wanted to, but just life happened and it became really complicated. I've been in a lot of different places, doing a lot of different things, from whatever, like doing tutoring for painting to running my own shop for like a long time, to video game companies, to graphic collective, like similar industries, but still different. On the flip side, I've been in the AI side for 5 years now, which feels like fucking ages. I do curse a lot, sorry about that. You can mute me after. And so it's been weird. It's been kind of a journey. A lot of things happened, like a lot of technology moved forward, as you know. We are totally in a different place today than we used to, which has been pretty fun. But then coming again to the idea of moving imagery, like we do complain that models are not performing the way they should, and that that was better, but it has been so fast, right? So if I look at just purely video, and if I look at my own journey with that, it started obviously being really young because we had a lot of VHS, like I think a lot of people growing in the 80s and 90s. Parents would tape whatever on TV, and then we would keep it forever until like the image starts to be half broken. But regarding AI, and if you look at it, it's been really like 2 years since we started having like better video models. And once again, we like to complain, but like it's insane the progress which has been achieved and the privilege we have today to be able to create what we can create with such quote-unquote ease. It's not pushing a button once again, but it's still fairly easy compared to where we were. So as an example, in early 2024, I was still working for my studio, and we got a commission from Coca-Cola to work on a short film. It was a Runway V1, the only model you could actually use, kind of in the box, I would say. And so we built workflows using Comfy UI, like getting an animator to create all the actual animation, and then kind of a blend of tools, like a kind of process, an entire team to run that. Fast forward, end of that year, start of the following one, got early access to VO2, worked on that short film, which got a ton of different reactions, some good, some like that, which very, very much summarizes, I think, the last 5 years, honestly. There's a lot of that still today, and we've seen it last week again. Got me an opportunity to get a commission for Google, for the Google I/O, work on that short film, which was really personal, more about my upbringing and my own insecurities around, getting to that field and creating and then using AI in that regard. And then in that process, got hired by Google to work at the labs to actually work on narrative content, but also work close to the Flow team to improve the tooling. And then more projects, right? So that's a short trailer, which is on its way to hopefully become a feature. So I wrote a script the very traditional way, and now discussing with financiers and distributors and studios to see how it could translate and what it could be. Hopefully, it's going to happen. And then I spent 6 months on this short film, which is still not public because it's still running to some festivals. So I cannot. I'm just going to pass a quick extract of it because I haven't played anything, I think, anywhere so far. And then moving forward on why it matters to actually choose your battles. Oh, better.
Something on your mind?
Every week?
Longer than I can remember.
What happened? I didn't think anyone else had, this thing.
You too. I see. One stitch at a time. That's all life ever is.
All right. Thank you. Maybe a little of context, because I think I mentioned it last time I was working on it. It was still early. But so this entire story is a kind of a way to, how to put it? It started because I met a guy who explained to me that his wife had cancer, and he had no idea how to explain his 2 kids. I come from the same place. Both my parents got cancer. I got cancer myself. A lot of my family got cancer at some point. And I noticed that there's a lot of things that we're battling which are extremely difficult to explain, a lot of difficult to just even show. Like it's very internal. And so this entire story is around like trying to make it visible and to show what's happening, in your inner space in a way which is extremely, obvious, which is here like this kind of a plant thing which is growing on your skin, and those 2 characters who are connecting for a difficult moment in their life. It's been sent to a lot of festivals. Right now it's been refused in everyone so far, and I don't expect to be accepted anywhere. I think what I do believe is that we have this responsibility as AI users to start trying to be taken seriously, which means we could go to all the AI festivals and try to be selected, and mostly it's fairly easy right now because we can congratulate each other in the same space. Or we try to, to push the doors a little bit further and to try to be accepted as filmmakers and not as AI filmmakers, which I think is a big issue. The next project, and that's going to be tied to what I'm going to show you afterwards, but I started doing some testing around Seedance when it came out, and I had this idea of an IP in the back of my mind, and that was a perfect test. And so that was kind of a pilot. Now I've moved on to episode 1. So altogether, what I did notice, though, is that through those projects, it did open a lot of doors. And what's been interesting, and that what I've noticed, like you can be extremely productive using AI. You can spend, every day you can release something new. But if I look at this, if I look at those different projects, it's a span of 2 years of my life-ish. And at the same time, it's roughly 5 short films, some longer than others, and including one of them, which is a concept trailer, and not, once again, 20 trailers. And it opened so many doors, so many conversations with like studios, from executives to smaller, larger streamers, whatever. And I think that's a very important point. As we move forward and the tooling makes it easier and easier to create, I think one of the issues is that we are like kind of encouraged to do more and to do faster, also because most of us are living on social media, and the very nature of it is that you have to keep on delivering to keep on existing. And that's true somehow, but having this focus on quality and making sure that you can deliver like better and better and better is going to make you stand out even more. And I think I know that some people who were on stage today actually got the same kind of a path, right? Like they had a breakthrough at some point, they met someone, but it mostly came through one body of work or several which were like strong enough for them to stand out. And the more we produce content, and the more it's going to be an issue to exist. I'll just give an example because I don't think we should be insecure about other people's work. I think we should cheer for each other when it's great. I encourage you to watch this short film from Leo about his childhood in Corsica in France. I think it's amazing. It's blending the lines between reality and fiction. I think it's pretty great the way he did it. So yeah, if you find the time, I would definitely encourage you to watch this one. Next, if you can take the hint, this is the one main thing. A few people have been over this on this stage the last 2 days. But the one thing which is sure is that models are quickly becoming a commodity, right? I know there's a lot of model makers around here, but they all get towards the same place, including Google. Like, good is good, real is real. And when we see in those 2 years what happened, we get now to this moment where like, it won't really matter. Like having a model which is better than the other, like you won't make the difference. It's just going to work for you. Issue with that is, if you pair that with the fact that a lot of people are really, the workflows are like, I have this workflow, and I'm going to, comment whatever, and I'm going to DM you the workflow. Man, I think you're just clinging to straws at this point. We know how it works. You start with really complicated limitations. Someone makes a workflow which, like 2 years ago, was everything Comfy UI with like obscure papers. And then at some point, one of the main providers would come with one tool which was like just make the entire workflow void. And then you go again. And we've seen it with good examples. ControlNet, for those who know, like ControlNet was, was like, oh, is it ControlNet? Now we have models like the Banana, which are doing exactly the same, except it's much easier. You don't have even to know what a ControlNet is. It just does what you ask. So if you look at this curve, what's happening, and it's going quickly down the curve, is that our edge for being a technical person is going away. Like it's much easier now to do a lot of things, meaning that being a tech person is not, is not really important, or is not as important. Second thing is that the slop economy is a real thing. Most likely you've heard about those fruits, which were toxic in so many ways. Politics, like there's elections I think right now, which are like heavily relying on AI as well in the campaign, and I think it's creating a whole new batch of questions. And you have all the usual suspects are like doing their own thing and moving forward, and all in their different ways, from partnerships to training to opening funds. We've seen Amazon last week. And so it means that we have this window which is really closing fast. When we felt like, oh, this is amazing, like the doors are opening, I personally think that the doors are pretty closing. I mean, it's going to be what we make out of it. But if you look at the establishment and how Hollywood has been doing things for long enough, I think they're more closing the doors than opening them. I think most of you know Gossip Goblin, doing his own thing, creating this universe, and like being extremely smart about how it's built and marketed. So I think one of the main points around that is don't be the AI guy or girl or whatever. It's one of the things, like, and it's happening more and more and more. It's easy to to have like a major company. So just to a sidestep, I'm collaborating with Google, but also I'm contracting because I wanted to have this freedom. But also I think it was better for them to have me outside and not being having a bias of being in the house. What you're going to hear a lot, and what I've heard a lot lately, is, you get a chance to work with, and then they mostly name drop a big fancy director. And I mean, I'm 41. When I was 20, I think I would have been really excited, like, oh, it's amazing. The one thing, the few of us who actually, went through this process noticed that they were going to be just hidden. It's just you're just going to be like co-directing, or you're going to be like, going to help me, but at the end of the day, what you're doing is just generating shots for someone who's going to, do the work. And I think there's a lot more than just doing tech work. If it's your thing, it's your thing, that's great. But we have a lot more today to prove than just being the person who knows how it works. That's why I do believe more than ever, and I think Nick has been over the same things, I think Noah this morning, it's the right time to build your own IPs, to trust yourself, to trust the stories you want to tell, to work on your own things, and to try to own as much as you can from it. Because you can either try to get a check out of it up front, which there's nothing bad about it, or you can trust yourself that you're there for the long game. I think Kevin is around. I think that's what Kevin has been doing for a while now, and build your own things and try to go around it. There are 4 things which I think matter, and more than ever as the tech limitations are going down. Obviously, there's taste. There's the audience. Distribution is one of the big topics, like how do you get seen? Social media is what it is. There's a lot of hoops and loops to get there. Story, we've been over it, super important, and then being authentic. You can rehash the same stories again, you can do the same sci-fi movies again and again, or you can do your own thing and tell something which is personal, which most likely has a lot more value, especially if your background, your culture, and where you come from. Tell something which matters to you, not something which you think might be working for other people. And then there's the idea of, I'm looking at timers to make sure I might have to skip a few things, but de-risking is the thing I heard the most over the last 6 months. If you talk to any major studio or major player and they're interested in working with you, they're going to mention that they have to de-risk the project, which basically means you need an executive producer, You need someone from Hollywood, which we know. We've seen a few press releases the last few weeks from AI-powered companies working on any kind of content, but then there's always someone attached. And in a way, it makes sense, right? Like you come from out of nowhere. But then every time you attach a name which is bigger than yours, what are the odds that you get pushed a little bit behind even more? And that might be fine. That might be the only way to get there. But I would keep this in mind. If you hear de-risking, you see where it's going. And we've seen it in industry. Like, those deals, heard of it. So the incubator, Ben Affleck, we discussed about it enough. AI and a lot announcement about the TV shows from Prime. Gareth Edwards doing his panel AI and a lot. We've seen this a few days ago. Martin Scorsese, who's all in on Flux. And obviously this news, which we don't talk about, I would say enough, because there was a lot of toxicity, and it's like it's kind of weird thing of being bullied out of something, knowing that if you have the respect as a creator, then why would you stop doing this? But anyway, the one thing is, and that's I've been in touch with a lot of different people, but there's one guy who has been in the industry for 30 years and like a lot of major companies in entertainment, and minus the typo in the middle, I think is extremely on point. It's like, we all think this is a big break, like those press releases sound like, oh cool, AI at this moment. It looks more like Hollywood is taking back control of what they already had, and they try to place their own in place because it's easier, and once again, it's easy to control people who know how it's been so far. So opportunities to try to do things differently. Quick side step on that. And the name is like work in progress so far, but that's so why the last few months I've been working on like a lot of us, I think, on doing my own thing as well, like building more of a label to work on original IPs. As in, there's this very unique opportunity with AI to speed up development and to understand better if whatever you're working on has a value and can be extended later. But so we don't want to run, not all of us, like, a studio of like 500 people at some point. I think the technology enables us to have a much smaller team and to do a lot more things and to stress test and to see if an IP has value in the market and then get the right partners to expand it. And I think there's a lot of future with that kind of model if you manage to keep enough rights on your creations and don't have to sell everything or just do work for hire, because that pays the bills, but so it's not that easy. Okay, 5. So I will show a bit of it after. I will just come back on IP I've been working on. So I mentioned before Junkyard King, something I started as a test. But maybe to give you how it works in the back, at least for me. First note, public domain IPs, I think, are a gold mine, something which is extremely ignored. And we've seen so many variations. So if you look at the Legend of Arthur and the sword and everything around it, it's already been exploited so many times by Hollywood. There's just 3 of them. There's like countless examples of that. Those movies are extremely different, but they treat the same IPs. They go back on it, and they double down. Some of them have been extremely successful, actually, all of them to some standards. So to come back on me as a kid, so I had a mullet, but apparently I forgot that it used to be cool. I think it's coming back, but it's done in all states. You might see it in Utah. And then there was that guy, if you remember him. If you grew up in the 90s, you know him, called MacGyver. The thing which he had, which was amazing, which I think is something we don't see enough, is that he was smart. He could figure out anything, and then 5 minutes, a wire, and he would build up a bomb. And there's something like when you work, or at least when I work on an IP, I like to try to make it as complete as possible. I try to think about the character and what's working and what are the tensions and what's his thing and what's going around it. But also, obviously, we spoke about the remix before. I think when you work on anything, the idea that we create original ideas, when people say, oh, using AI is not original, are you? Like, we all are influenced by something at some point. That's the way we are wired as human beings. Like, everything you saw growing up, the things you're watching, the TV, the paintings, like, you influenced. So I'm pretty obvious on the fact that I love coming-of-age movies from the 80s and 90s. I think there was something unique about it, about just being outside until no hour and hanging with your kids, but also like this idea of mentorship and having people you can trust. If you haven't watched Explorers in the middle, because it's not as well known, I encourage you to watch it. I loved it growing up, so with a very, very young Ethan Hawke. But between all of those ingredients, and when you know where you want to go, there's something you can start creating and building around it. And the last thing is, for the last 20 years, I would say, I've been reading like a lot of different mangas, because I think that was a thing when I was early in college, and then kept reading, and I think it's become extremely easy now to get access. And there's always this kind of a arc and characters who are like somewhere between humor and this kind of a growth they have. So there's a lot of ingredients that you can mix together to create something which is yours. So I had the feeling when I released this one that episode 0 kind of showed the way, like it gave a path forward. And so the idea was now to double down and see what I could do with it. So script, obviously, first step. Noah said earlier was the same. I don't work without a script. I want to have a script and know where I'm going as a Bible. I'm going to skip this for now. There you go. A hero. I want him to be unique. I want to have his own quirks. I want him to have some personality. Things you might question, things you can use later down in the lore to explain or like to justify some of the character's actions. You want people to remember where you're going with that. And then a main antagonist. You want something is going to work against, but at the same time, which is unique enough and interesting enough. And then working on environment, trying to build a world which is believable, which has enough depth, and where I know where I want to go, what I can do with it. So I'm going to go through all those. Last note, because to be fair, this episode has been built mainly using NVIDIA's Agent 1. I thought that it's been interesting. I'm still learning to see how I feel about agents, and there was something really great about it because I felt like it was really assisting me in the process. So I'm curious to see where it's going to go. And then obviously editing also, which is one superpower that everyone seems to forget, but none of this has value if you don't know how to edit, or at least someone knows in your team. But I think most of the magic is coming between the script and between that. Those are the two. Screenwriting and editing, to me, are like the two things you need to do the most. All right. I don't have much time left. I'm going to let it run until they kick me out of the stage. 30 seconds, plus maybe a bit of overlay.
kinda hoped it was just a bad dream. You again?
The blade chose you, whether you like it or not. There are things at that junkyard you need to see before they find you.
Before who finds me?
Everyone, 2 minutes. Bring the blade.
Stupid window! Let's go. Chicken! Let's go!
Took you long enough.
Don't do that!
My name is Socket, not chicken. Socket. Socket.
All right. I'll try to remember. So, why are we back here exactly?
Because you have no idea how to use this blade, do you?
This thing? I mean, it glows and it's weirdly light, but I don't really get why.
Because it's not a toy.
Okay, fine. But what about her? The lady with the... is she?
She is many things. Crazy is not one of them. Now listen carefully. There is another world beyond this one. The mirror. But broken. Everything your world built. The trains, the iron, the tracks. She pulled it through. Twisted.
Wait. How do you know all this? You've been in there?
Can I continue?
At the center of it all, there is a girl. Your age. She calls herself the Sovereign. She commands an army. Creatures of
A girl? My age? Who is... All right.
All right, the rest is on YouTube. I'll let you check. Think about this. Can you make something only you could make? I think that's really important. And thank you.